Silent but Deadly, we here, man. We here for show, for show, for show. And as you can tell by the title, today we're gonna be talking about. It's gonna be kind of like a health and fitness part two, but I don't really know if I could fit that in the title, so I'm gonna just call it "Why I Run." Keep it simple enough. And so I got a few notes right here just to make sure I got my thoughts organized and I got the information organized and I'm flowing and not just jumping from here and there and everywhere, but this topic is important to me, and I really didn't even plan this topic. Like a lot of times when I'm thinking about which podcast or what I'm gonna talk about on the podcast, is I usually decide earlier in the week, and then I just record it either like on the weekend and then post it on Sunday. But today, I really didn't know what I was gonna talk about, and I really didn't have the motivation or the inspiration to do a podcast today, but feel me, it is what it is. And so as I was running this morning, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about something that I'm knowledgeable about, something that I could talk about for a little bit amount of time, and something not too deep. You know, a lot of time on this channel we get into the weeds, or I get into the weeds, I get real deep about, well, not as deep as I'm finna get if I keep going, but I get into the weeds about like social stuff and culture. And last week we had men versus women, and then I'm gonna keep talking about self-improvement topics and things like this. But today is kind of like a self-improvement topic, but it's something that I enjoy. So I'm gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna talk about, well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna talk about. So on my notes, I'm gonna start off with talking about how I started running, slash what I'm doing now, my running now. I'm gonna talk about the benefits, and then I'm gonna talk about how you can start and some tips about running and some things that I learned over the years. Because I've been running for some years, and that's a common theme. Like on this podcast, I don't really want to come and talk to you guys about stuff I don't really know about, it will be hard for me to come here and talk to y'all for 20 to 30 minutes about something that is not on my head and on my brain. So yeah, I think this would be a good episode. So let's just get into it, talk about running, and I'll get right into how I started running. I haven't always been a runner. I haven't always been a person that enjoys running. And I didn't start running on my own accord, like a lot of things I do on my own accord, but I actually learned running as a lifestyle choice and as something that you do in your day-to-day, and for fitness, from my father, from my dad. He's a person who runs a lot, and he never was a runner. He was an athlete. He was a basketball player, spent time in the military, and he was an athlete, for sure. I got my athletic genes and my athletic prowess from my father. I took some stuff from my mom, took some stuff from my dad, but my genes in regards to my athlete side is definitely from my father, because a lot of my uncles and my cousins on my mom's side, they're not really athletes. So I'm pretty sure I got that from my dad. But how I started running was because I started running with him. I've always been an athlete for the most part. I usually play basketball, but long distance running, it's not really a part of basketball unless you're really trying to do it for your performance. But running as a lifestyle is something I got from my dad. So I can't remember the exact first time I ran with him. And I didn't used to. I never really lived with my dad. So every time I was running with him, it was when I used to go visit him where he lived. So I can't remember the first time exactly running. Okay, I do remember. One of the first times. It was me and my brother. We had went down there to his house. I'll just say in Atlanta. He lives in Atlanta. As people that's watching, if you know me, you probably know. But the first time we ever went for a run, I was young, and so they didn't really make me run. And the idea of running for as long as he usually runs, it kind of scared me. It probably scared me because I ain't end up running. I rode the bike, and it was my brother and my dad running while I rode my dad's bike. And my dad's route where he lives in Atlanta, it's a whole bunch of hills everywhere. So it was just my brother and my dad running the hills while I'm on the bike, like behind them. I couldn't really be like, I really didn't go too far from him. I was really like behind him and just in the area. It's like real close to him. That's what I remember. And I also remember on one of these first times. My brother, he tapped out. He didn't finish the run with my dad. But I was still on the bike, and I was just like going with my dad still. My brother went back to the house, and so that was the time that was one of the times I remember, probably the first time where I actually didn't run with them, but it was the first time I was exposed to running as a lifestyle choice and something that was a habit. And yeah, I just remember my dad, my brother running, my brother struggling, and he ended up tapping out, going back to the house, and I was just on the bike. But every time, that might not have been the first time I was exposed to it, but that might have been the first time that we actually went out and ran with my dad. But it was probably times before that, because I remember my dad, every time we went down there, he always had a schedule of running. He would always run, and sometimes he would take us to the track when we was down there, and he would run. And it was just like, he wasn't doing it for any reason. It was just like a habit for him. It was a lifestyle choice, and it was something that he enjoyed doing, and he does to this day. And I would say that's probably, if I was to give one reason why I'm a runner, and one way I got started, it was definitely because of my dad. And even that was like one of the first times I remember. But I remember another time we was in California at my grandma's house, and she lives in this like gated community and in California. Well, she used to. She passed away, God rest her soul. But I remember one time we went down there and we ran the hills. We did some runs down there. He was down there before we came down there, but when we came down there, we ran with him, and that was probably one of my longest runs ever. Not ever, like, but I mean, it's in the top list, and it was probably one of the hardest and one of the runs I definitely remember the most, because it was in these hills and we ran for close to an hour, but I was going at my dad's speed. So man, it's a lot to say about running, but my dad, he runs at a slower speed because he's older, and there's really a science to running, but I'm gonna say that for later into the episode. Right now I'm just talking about how I started running. So to make a long story short, and how I made a long story long, just it's really my pops. But what also kept me running is trying to get in shape so I could play basketball. When I was trying to get on the basketball team, play high school basketball, we had, like, my basketball team was like real serious, and they were always contenders. Well, at least at the time I was there, they were always contenders in like downstate. So it was a competitive program, and pre-season we had preseason workouts. It was kind of a year-round sport, honestly. But summer, it was the summer workouts, and fall, you had the fall workouts, and like the 4 weeks leading up to tryouts, there's conditioning. So during the summer, the only reason I would run by myself back in the day, in the beginning of my journey, was simply to try to get in shape so I can complete the conditioning. Because anybody that was a part of it will tell you it is like literally like hell on earth, hell in a gym. And I didn't really do too much, and it could be a lot said and talked about that, but I won't get into that now, because I'm just talking about why I started and how I got to where I am today, which is what I'm gonna get into next. But I didn't used to always like running. When I first, in the beginning of my journey, it wasn't something that I would look forward to. It wasn't something that I was excited to do. It was something that I usually dreaded doing a lot of the times. But the thing about running is that when you finish, I noticed after every time you finish, you feel good because you finish running. But eventually, going through my journey, it was just about start running so you can get to the end. And once you start, I mean, you're going. And I'm putting the cart before the horse. But that's how I started running. And so what I'm doing now is kind of doing what I built on. I never really had a set running schedule like how I explained. My father had three. He runs 3 times a week, but in the beginning of my journey, and I want to show y'all. I want to show y'all my log, because I have a log of runs ever since I came into college. I started keeping all my runs in one place, and here it is, called College Runs. I hope y'all can see that. But it's college runs. You can see the first run is 2.4 miles, 20 minutes. Didn't have a date. 8:29. I'm assuming that's 2020. That's 2020. 8:29, 2020. 3.7 miles in 31 minutes. 9:4, 2.6 miles in 22 minutes. 9:7, 3.2 miles in 26 minutes. 9:9, 3 miles in 26 minutes. And so it just went like this, and I could see from this times I was more consistent, times I was less consistent, times even from April 24th, I didn't run until 9:24. So from the end of April 2021, according to my log, I didn't do any running until September. So, and the log is like extensive. This is all runs ever since I came to college, and that's the end. And I stopped keeping track of the miles after a while because I knew the miles because of my Apple Watch, but I don't really use that anymore. But I am gonna use it to start marking my longer runs. But I say all this to say that I started running as a way to get in. I started running just because I used to do it with my dad, but he encouraged me to keep running and to keep doing it, and then I started using it to stay in shape. And now I use it more as like a tool of my physical fitness. I use it as a tool to sharpen my mind. I use it to stay in shape. I use it to lose weight. I use it as like, I use the runner's high, the high you get from completing a run. And I want to talk about that. So what I'm doing now, I'm running. Sometimes, some weeks I run every day. Some weeks I'll run 3 times in a week. Some weeks I run 4 times in a week. It really depends. I don't really give myself a strict schedule, but especially right now, I'm still waiting for my finger to heal so I can go back to jiu-jitsu. Right now, I'm not doing jiu-jitsu. I'm doing a whole lot of running right now. A whole lot of running. This morning I ran an hour, 1 minute and 30 seconds, and I'm gonna get on my watch to see how many miles that is, but it's at least 4 or 5, at least. Probably closer to 5. So let's talk about the benefits of running. I got into some of the benefits already, but let's just start off with the runner's high. And the runner's high is a very real thing, and I think I talked about this on my health and fitness channel, or my health and fitness episode. The runner's high is a real thing. I'll tell you a story. Last Tuesday, I ran a route that I never ran before on my campus, and when I'm running, I usually run similar routes, or like the same route for the most part. Sometimes I'll just freestyle it, but a lot of times it's the same route because I know what to expect and I know how my performance was based on the time. So I'll run the exact same route, and based on however fast or slow I did it, I'll know how strong or how that run was, so I can just get data about how I'm feeling, how my body feels, and what like constitutes a strong run or a weak run, and like what prerequisites came with the strong or weak run. Just science, discovering myself, studying myself really. But the runner's high is a very real thing. On Tuesday, I did a long run that it was my first time doing this new route that I created. It's a combination of my old route, but I add a whole extra few miles to it, like going all the way like next to the cornfields, basically in the cornfields. I passed like some horses, like some farms, like a pond where the geese be at. I passed the stadium, but man, I like it. I like doing it. And so on Tuesday, the first time I did this before class. I did this. It was a complete nighttime. It was like 6 a.m. Complete nighttime, 6 a.m. I went on this run, and when I came back, I had class. I have 8 a.m. class on Tuesday, and I was in 8 a.m. class after this run. Like, man, it felt like I had to run through a wall. Like, it felt like I had so much energy. And there could have been things I could have done. My breath work. I forgot to do my breath work to kind of bring me back in the center and to calm me down, because I know my body had released so much adrenaline, and I was still moving. I was still fueled up off that adrenaline because I went right from my run, took a shower, then went to class, and I had so much energy that after class I went back to the gym and I did like a little strength / conditioning session that has me still sore like to right now. like to this day. I did like 100 push-ups, 50 dips, and 200 jiu-jitsu crunches. That's it. That's all I had to do for my strength workout to feel sore for days on days. And it was probably overdue. I do a little bit of strength and conditioning, but not like that. And that's all you gotta do, really, to for strength and conditioning. But that's a whole nother episode. And as you can see, man, I'm somebody you could take the advice from. But yeah, that workout. But yeah, was saying all that to say the runner's high. I ran for 1 hour, and for the next 2 to 3 hours, it was just like an elevated level. Eventually followed by a crash around 12:30. But I started my run. I ran for an hour. I finished at about 7:15, and from 7 something to 12:30, like I had like energy I never felt before. Energy I never felt from any exogenous substance. Nothing that I felt from like a good night of sleep. Like it was kind of insane. It was kind of bizarre, actually. I don't know. But even today, I did the same route, and I didn't feel like crazy. Probably for some other reasons that I'm not gonna get into. But man, I got energy right now, and I'm up right now. Like I'm feeling real good. So that's one benefit of running. You can, and you see, I don't even have to write down. I wrote down benefits of running right there. I don't got nothing. I can just rattle the benefits off because I know. So one benefit is the runner's high. You could use this to help you modulate some like people that have like your mental health things, or if you're in like a funk, or you need to reset yourself, like you did a whole bunch of work sitting down, you want to reset yourself and just reinvigorate yourself. You go on a run, like it changes the way you feel for sure. That's why a lot of people use like CrossFit and different type of physical activity as medicine. That's why they say physical activity helps your mental health, and this is true. Like this is not a fad. And the thing about running that's different from like lifting weights is that when you run, one, you definitely feel it's man, I feel like it's something that has to be explained. It has to be felt rather than me explaining it. But if I was to go lift weights for an hour, like your normal 3 sets of 12, rest for some minutes, 3 sets of this, do my 3 sets of that, 3 sets of that, and did that for an hour versus me running for an hour, I'm gonna feel like after I'm done running, I'm gonna feel like high. Like people are gonna think like people are gonna be like, yo, why are you tripping? Like chill out. Like I was sitting in class on Tuesday, like trying to tell myself to chill out. I was like, bro, calm down. Like I couldn't calm down. I just had so much energy. It lifted me up. But say if I would have lifted that early in the morning, yeah, I would have been feeling good, but I wouldn't have been feeling like I was feeling, and I can guarantee that for sure. So I think, and there's place for lifting too, for mental health. Like if you need to like dispel a whole bunch of energy, I think it can be dispelled from running, and it could be dispelled from running. But sometimes the lifting does help, but it could be dispelled from both. And I will argue to say that running actually does a better job, just because the chemicals that release when you're done running, and just the feeling, just from personal experience, honestly. And I'm sure there's science to back it up, but who needs science when I got personal experience and I got a wealth of anecdotes of myself and other people. So that's one benefit. Another benefit is just the losing weight aspect. There's a lot of health fads and fitness fads right now going around where people think that you can't gain muscle and run at the same time. Now it's true that when you run, it activates a different like metabolic system in your body that is not conducive to hypertrophy all the time. But this is not going to happen if you just run for 20 minutes or jog for a little bit here and there and do your lifts and you're still eating. Like this is for runners that are putting in miles on miles every day. This is not for people that like, you're not going to lose muscle mass by doing 20 minutes on a treadmill before or after your workout. Or even incorporating some, maybe not before or after your workout, because that's not for everybody. Me personally, I like to train everything in one session. Like I like to do my conditioning, my strength, and my mobility all in one session. Sometimes I split it up, and I don't mind doing it in one session. But even people that may lift on 3 days a week, maybe on 2 days of those weeks, 2 days of the week, doing some cardio or doing some running on a treadmill or outside or jump rope or anything like this. It's not gonna take away your muscle, like, and I'm not gonna go into the physiology or exercise science about that, but it kind of doesn't make sense. And you see all these like weightlifters and fake bodybuilders and guys that just like to lift weights. Yeah, they may have some mass to them, they may have some, some size, but a lot of them don't be having no cuts. Like, you don't have no you can't see no striation in the muscles, no rib, no abs. And it also has to do with diet more than cardio, but man, cardio would take you a long way when it comes to losing fat and getting in shape. So I would say benefits of running. The first benefit would be the runner's high. It's really like a drug, right? I'm telling you, I don't know what to tell y'all to really bring this point home, that it's really like a drug when you do a long run. And to that point, the longer and harder you run, to a certain extent, there's a tipping point, but the longer and harder you run, the more intense the release is, and it's just like a natural high that dispels slowly over time, and it feels really good, especially like right after you finish. Like the rest of the next few hours, like, man, it's just like a cup of coffee, like you're on cloud nine. So the first benefit of running, I would say, would be the runner's high. Second benefit is to lose fat. Like, even if you're a person that wants to gain muscle, you're gonna look better if you lose your fat. You're gonna look cut and big. You're gonna look like Hercules out here, So runner's high, the brain chemicals, losing weight. Number three, I'll say the discipline. The discipline is like, if you say you're gonna run 3 times a week and you don't run 3 times a week, that says something about your discipline. But if you get a set schedule and you following it and you're running, then it shows that you have been disciplined. And a lot of people don't like running because sometimes it's uncomfortable. And I gotta be honest, like in the beginning, it is uncomfortable. Like, if you're not a runner, like, it's gonna take a while for you to start enjoying running. Even if I'm gonna be honest, like, it took, like, I recently, not too recently, started enjoying running because I've been doing it since the beginning of college. But I used to really run because I knew how it was gonna make me feel after. But now I just like everything about running. I like the pain. It's not always painful, but sometimes you get pain if you don't know how to run correctly. Oh man, that's a whole nother thing I gotta talk about too. Correct running form, because running is definitely a skill. But dang, I always go to different places in my mind. I don't remember. Sometimes I forget the main thing I was talking about discipline. You gotta, if you're gonna tell yourself that you're gonna become a runner and you're gonna start taking up running as a hobby, you're gonna have to get through the hard part. And so it's gonna build your discipline, because it's not easy. Whatever you don't like, it's gonna be something you don't have to, it's gonna be things you don't like to do in life that you have to do anyway. So running, even when you don't want to run and you don't have to run, and running just because, is gonna train that discipline muscle, that muscle that flexes when you do something that you don't want to do. And wow, that's a gym. That's really a gym. So I'm gonna leave it to those three benefits of running. And I really can't think of anything else that's really crazy profound. I'll probably think of something later, but right now that's like one of the three reasons that I run is for the runner's high that you get. Like, why not? If you're gonna exercise, you might as well do the exercise that's gonna make you feel the craziest after you're done, without any extra substances, like no pre-workout, nothing. The weight loss and the discipline factor of working that muscle that does things that you don't necessarily want to do. And man, that's important for sure. Man, I was gonna say something about the number one, the runner's high thing. Oh yeah, okay, so like I said, it takes, the longer you run and the more you exert yourself, the better you're gonna feel after. But sometimes, like my brother used to just run 10 minutes. That's it. Like, you don't have to start. And I guess we're going right into how to start and going into the tips. When you first start running, you don't have to run crazy. Like, I'm just recently starting to run for an hour. Like when I'm with my dad, I used to run for like around 50 minutes, but I never really was a hour runner. I'm just now starting to increase the volume because I think I'm trained. I think I might want to run this half marathon in April, so I'm starting to increase the volume. But like I say, my brother used to just run for 10 minutes. He used to just run around our little block, like this street, this street, this street type thing. And it would just take him 10 minutes. And that feels better than not doing it. And you could use running as a warm up. Like if you're about to do a lifting session, you can run for 10 minutes. You can run for 20 minutes. If you're not used to it, I would say run for less time because if you overexert yourself with the running, it may mess up your lift a little bit. You may not have the most energy, but you can get tired. You can break a sweat, run with running, and then have a great lifting session. I do it every time. I can do it whenever. Like run, like I'll say I'll run 30 minutes, and then if it's a strength day, then I'll run like 20, 30 minutes, then do my strength stuff, then do my mobility. This might be different for somebody who has different strength goals or hypertrophy goals, because maybe you don't run for that long, or maybe you run after the session. But I definitely like to run, and I really don't like to work out without breaking a sweat before I get into the main portion of my workout. So if we're talking about how to start and tips about running, start small. Like how I did, I made a list of all the times that I ran, and some months I went without running, but I picked it back up. And so like on my list of days that I've been running ever since 2020, sometimes it's weeks where it's just like consistent, like you'll see a month and it's days throughout that whole month, and then sometimes the months don't make appearances, and then sometimes it's like every day, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and then maybe you take a little break, 1 week break, and you get back in on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and it's just like that. Some tips I would say to start running. For one, everybody has their own form, but you gotta make sure that your feet are, like, running is a skill. Let me just start by saying this. I don't want to tell anybody like running advice, like peep game. I have a whole book about running somewhere, and this. Oh, here it is. Ready to Run. Now, Ready to Run by Kelly Starrett. I have 3 books by Kelly Starrett. Well, I have all his books. If running wasn't a skill, like, you couldn't make a whole book about running. But some big things is to pay attention to your form. Your form's important. Like the most efficient long-term runners it's almost like they're walking but running. And so how I run is I kind of strike with, they talk about heel striking and toe striking. I strike with my toes, but man, it's a lot to learn, I would say. But always start. Don't focus on your form and all these other stuff before you start. Like, starting is important. You can learn on the way. Like, I've learned on the way, but you just got to build that habit and build that muscle, and let that time period go where you don't enjoy running, so that you can get to the point where you're like, well, running is not too bad. You go from this really sucks to this sucks, but after I'm done it'll feel good, to it's not too bad, and then to, yeah, I'm a runner. And I think I finally got into that stage where I'm a runner, and I think I'm gonna run for as long as I can run until I gotta walk, hopefully, because I like to do it, for sure. And running has helped me to become more disciplined. It's got me cut. It's got my gas tank. It's got me in shape. And I learned in anatomy class that when you run, don't forget it. I can't even forget about the health benefits of running. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer right now, allegedly. That's what they say. And running it helps your heart. It helps your veins. My anatomy teacher said when you run, over time your heart makes new, because you have like how we have arteries and veins in our arms and legs and head, we have arteries and veins on our heart that supply our blood to our heart. And he said when you run, these arteries and veins in your heart, they make new connections and they grow. So you build yourself a better cardiovascular system, essentially, when you run. So you got health benefits, you got mental health benefits, discipline benefits. So all around, I think running is very important. Well, I wouldn't say as important because I say everything is very important. So I wouldn't say very important like how these other topics I'm talking about is very important, but it's something that's very important in my life and something that helps me. Like, say I'm running at 6 a.m. today or 7, 8, it's like 6:30, and I'm running with the sunrise. Sometimes I'm running and it's dark outside and nobody's out there but me. And I don't know, just it makes me, it energizes me. It's really, I would say it's part of my identity, honestly. And it helps me form, it helps me to just be who I am. It's part of who I am. And yeah, like how David Goggins likes to run. I see why he likes to run, and it scales over time. That's one thing. So let me give you the tips. So I said focus on your form, but start before you just start. So tip number 1 is to start. Number 2 is to focus on your form and to do research. Number 3 that is important, and to go with start. Just start small. Just introduce it to your body, introduce it to your mind, introduce it to your rotation. Number 2, breathing out is more important than breathing in. And this is something that I've learned over time. Like if you get any cramps or you get any muscle fatigue, you're probably not breathing out correctly. And so you gotta get a rhythm. That's why I like to run with no music, and that's what I learned from my dad too, running with no music. Like you can run with music and it definitely geeks you up. It definitely gets you like excited, but you running with no music is personally even better for me. I like to switch it up sometimes, but really right now I'm running all with no music, and I cadence my breath with my feet. But the breathing out is the most important part. So like I'll go 1, 2, 1, 2, and while I'm going 1, 2 is, well, I can't do it right now sitting. It's a body thing, but breathing out, like sometimes I'll run. Like if I get a cramp or something, like it's only breathing out. Like you'll be surprised how long you can run only breathing out, not having barely breathing in any. It's really, I'm focused on the breathing out part more than I'm like trying to breathe. Another tip is to breathe through your nose. And I've been talking for 30 minutes. Sometimes I like to, I'm keeping it the next 30 minutes, but man, I like running, and hopefully if I keep going, keep with this podcast in the future, I'll be able to talk to like a real runner and ask questions and learn and all this type of stuff. But right now we just in this phase of the Silent but Deadly podcast, so I'm gonna stop talking y'all heads off, man. But man, running, shout out running. Running is it's part of us. It's a part of us, honestly. Like we're built to run. I think I talked about that in this podcast, being built to run. I really hope. But man, thank y'all for watching SBD. Thank y'all for the support, man. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even really want to do this podcast today. I wasn't gonna do it, but right when I was considering doing it, I looked at my YouTube studio and I seen somebody dropped a comment, just bigging me up. I forgot the name, but it was on my dating relationships video. This was like today. Like, so if you're watching this today, shout out you. You got me to do this today. And that's what I say, the support, it supports me. And I wasn't not doing a podcast for any reason other than something I'm not gonna go into. But it was just a me thing. We all go through our things. But I'm coming strong. So next week we'll see what I talk about. I got some topics that is in the vault, but we'll see what happens. But thank you for watching. Please support if you enjoy. I'm gonna get up out of here. Let's go.